Get ready to go from surviving to thriving with me, Clare Downham, where we explore the no tools, no techniques shift to overcome stress, silence self-doubt and create a life of calm, fulfillment and freedom. Let's dive in and begin your transformation. Hi there. So today, the illusion of stress and how to see through it. And before we start this, I really do want to say that I am not about denying people's experience. I'm not about saying there's no such thing as stress or any of that nonsense. I should know. I burnt out in 2015, so I really do understand stress. I do understand the implications of that on the body and the consequences of that, because I lived them. You know, I was sick and I didn't work for a year, and it was pretty awful, really, if I'm absolutely honest at the time. Bizarrely, I am quite grateful now that that's what happened to me, because it meant that my life changed, and it put me on this journey to create the Thriving Woman approach and to share this kind of inside out understanding with people who it is helping. So I am grateful, really, that that happened. I also often say that if I'd carried on at the rate I was going, I probably would have had a heart attack or a stroke at some point. So thank goodness that isn't what happened. That I stepped away from my life, but also, and more importantly, I changed, or I learnt, I guess, a very different way of understanding my experience. So let's start with the problem. You know, the problem with stress is that it can really feel like an utterly insurmountable reality. Like, it feels like a reality. It feels like, and this is what we're told, isn't it? I'm sure you pick up I don't pick up newspapers, but I'll let you do that if you choose to. But you can pick up a newspaper, look at the news or whatever, and you will find things that people are saying along the lines of, this is a stressful situation. This is a stressful job. You know, there's that thing about the 5 most stressful things that you can experience. I think it's divorce, having a baby, moving house, getting married. I mean, ironically, that marriage and divorce are both in the categories. I can't remember. Oh, I think the other one is losing somebody. So, great, bereavement, I guess you would call it. So we've been told, haven't we? We've been primed that it's these things that are causing stress. And so we go through life, I think, then sort of almost ready for it, ready for what life's going to throw at us and how hard that's going to be, and how it's going. We're just going to have to kind of put up with it. That's the kind of message, I think, isn't it? That there are some things in life that are just stressful, and get on with it, really. Like, although, get on with it, but also you could perhaps try and manage that, mitigate it in some way by doing lots of other things. And I've spoken about this many times before, but I used to have a workshop that I called the Stress to Success Habits. And that workshop was all about, giving people lots of extra things. And I, as I've said before, I can look back on that time and just think, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that I did that to people. I invited people to do more stuff than they already had to do in order to experience less stress, which is irony, complete irony, really. But the problem really isn't that there's the world out there creating stress, and that we need to learn to manage ourselves better so we can experience less stress. The problem is believing that stress is a thing that comes from the outside world, and that actually is what keeps you trapped. Because if you believe, and I'm reading this book called The Expectation Effect at the moment, which is all about the neuroscience of this. But if we have a belief that something is a particular way, or something is impacting us in a particular way, then that will be the reality that we experience. So believing stress is real and coming from out there fundamentally keeps us trapped in it because we're expecting it. We're expecting to feel stressed. When I say I was a head teacher when I burnt out, people immediately say, "Oh, that's education. That's what it's like. That's what's happening to people in education." And I am not denying that it is a full-on job with a lot of, a lot of stuff and a lot of expectations of what you're supposed to do and how much you're supposed to do. However, the stress is not coming from there. The stress is coming from our relationship with what's happening. Now, as I've already said, I am not about denying. I am not about saying, there isn't stuff that's hard on human beings. And I do also think that the human system has a capacity. You can't just keep doing more and more and more stuff and expect to feel okay. That you can't. There is a limit. There's a physiological limit to how much this system can actually do, and also how much it can have, how much we can have on our minds, which I think is a fundamental part of stress. But let's just really poke around at this a little bit, like we do in the Thriving Woman approach, to say, yeah, okay, there's a world out there. Yes, there are things that are just too much for human mind body systems. But where are we creating an extra layer that is actually making this a whole lot worse? And when I say where are we creating, I do not mean that anybody's deliberately going around thinking about how difficult their life is, thinking about things in a certain way in order to create a horrible experience of stress. That is not what I'm pointing to here. But there is unconscious stuff going on all the time. And if we start to see it, we can begin to experience it in a different way. So rather than being stuck in these cycles of overwhelm, we start to become more tuned in. We start to understand ourselves better. And the result of that is a sort of different level of consciousness, I suppose you might say, where you experience things differently. And that's what the Thriving Woman approach is all about. So taking us from being completely absorbed in all this stuff that seems to be happening to us and seems to be making us feel a particular way, to a place where almost there's an awareness of ourselves and how we are navigating through these aspects of life. So, for example, we start to notice, we start to notice the body more. We start to notice, like, the thing I didn't notice when I was super stressed out and burning out. I had no idea that my body was literally screaming at me to stop the whole time. I was at that point seeking a feeling of well-being, I suppose, a feeling of feeling better in the outside world, looking and looking and looking for that. And of course, it wasn't there. So I was doing more and chasing more. And look at how often we do that and create more stuff for ourselves to do. If you are experiencing imposter syndrome, perfectionism, if you are a bit of a people pleaser, if you want everything to be a certain way, like me, control freak, recovering control freak, I feel like I should start a group, Control Freaks Anonymous. If any of those things are at play, and these are all things that we explore in the Thriving Woman approach, then that is dictating how you behave and how much you then take on into your life, which of course I've already said, there is an amount of stuff we can take on. And actually, sometimes we just take on too much because we're looking for a better feeling in the outside world. So what we're looking at here, and this is the fundamental underpinning thing about the Thriving Woman approach, is we're starting to recognize thought and the role it's playing in our experience, in creating our experience. So when we start to recognize that stress is generated by thought, we can start to see it dissolve. And that kind of comes in kind of two places, I think. Like, in the moment, something's happening in my life and I am really just thinking very badly about that. I'm caught up in the future. I'm caught up in, oh, this is really not going to work out. Or, oh gosh, this happened before. I'm using the past to predict the future. All of that's going on. And that's creating discomfort in the body. And when I know that's creating discomfort in the body, sometimes it will make more sense to just back off from that a little bit and give myself some space. So that's one aspect of how thought is creating stress. And the other aspect is what I've just said, is that we're trying to make life a particular way. We think we can only be okay if life is a particular way. So we're chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, trying to make our life like literally be in the box that we think it should be in. And that makes us just so busy. And all of that idea is underpinned by a crazy illusion that we can experience calm or find calm somewhere in the outside world. And we just can't, because it isn't there. And as we start to see that, as we start to see what's directing our behavior, what's pushing us, what's underpinning it, when we start to see that none of that is who we really are, that the thoughts, the emotions, everything that's passing through, and that our essence is still there no matter what, that changes everything. So that's the journey, and it's a beautiful one. And if you want to, check out a little bit more about that, there's a little masterclass about the Thriving Woman approach you can check out. So, yeah, I hope you find that helpful. Take care, lots of love, and I will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to explore your journey from surviving to thriving. For more insights and resources, please visit my website www.claredownham.com and explore the Thriving Woman Masterclass. Remember, thriving is within your reach. See you next time.